Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here, and I think it's time for a serious Russian history lesson. During the Russian Communist Revolution of 1917, the monarchy was dissolved. Then, one tragic night, the former Tsar Nicholas, his wife, and their children were brutally executed by gunshot. Rumours were raised that 17-year-old Anastasia, one of Nicholas's daughters, managed to escape that night and survived. Many women have claimed to be Princess Anastasia, but each and every one was disproven. Now, imagine if someone took this real-life historic tragedy and turned it into a whimsical, Disney-esque fairy tale movie. Well, that's what directors Don Bluth and Gary Goldman did. Anastasia is an animated musical adventure. Princess Anastasia Romanov of Russia has a lovely relationship with her grandmother, the Dowager Empress Marie, who gives her the gift of a pretty music box and promises to take her to Paris. Unfortunately, Rasputin, the evil sorcerer, puts a curse on the Romanov family, which leads to the Russian Revolution. Anastasia and her grandmother manage to escape the revolt against the palace, but they end up losing each other during their getaway. Also, Anastasia ends up banging her head and develops amnesia. Luckily, Rasputin ends up drowning and dies. Many years later, Anastasia, who now goes by the name of Anya, leaves the orphanage she's been living at and goes on a quest to find out who she really is. Along the way, she meets a pair of con artists called Dmitri and Vlad, who convince her to help them scam the Dowager Empress into thinking that she is the long-lost Princess Anastasia, not knowing that she really is the real Anastasia. As they travel to Paris, Dmitri and Vlad teach and train Anya to help her become a convincing Princess Anastasia. Slowly, Anya and Dmitri develop a romantic tension as they bond over their scam. Meanwhile, Rasputin is now in limbo because his curse against the Romanov family hasn't been fulfilled. He discovers that Anastasia is still alive and becomes determined to kill her. First, let's address the elephant in the room. This film ignores and alters Russian history. Many facts are exaggerated, westernized, or twisted. Important key figures get downplayed, and fantasy elements have been inserted. I will admit that it's disrespectful and tasteless for a movie to turn a real-life Russian tragedy into a whimsical Americanized story. However, I don't think the directors Don Bluth and Gary Goldman went into the film with inconsiderate intentions. They were just naive. I'm guessing that they just wanted to tell an interesting what-if story. So, is the film itself any good? The main problem with this film is that it's trying way too hard to replicate the Disney formula. I mean, it's about a princess who wants to find a better life, she falls for a bad boy rascal, there's a cute animal sidekick, and they have to face against an evil sorcerer. There's no way around it. This film is desperate to latch onto Disney's success. It's this lack of sincere identity and direction that drags the film down. The film forces so many Disney tropes into its narrative that it forgets what it's supposed to be about, and the narrative collapses in confusion. I feel like the romance between Anya and Dmitri gets too much attention. It seems to be only a high focus because the film wants to imitate Disney's tradition of having a central romance, thus distracting the film from being a little less about divided family and more about a fluffy Hollywood romance. It doesn't help that their romance is heavily cliched. It's the usual arc of not liking each other followed by romantic tension and then a series of misunderstandings. I swear that characters only hide the truth from each other just to force some tension into the narrative. This is melodramatic, bad storytelling. This is the recipe for crappy Hollywood romance movies. Then there's the idea of having the evil sorcerer trope as a villain. It really doesn't work for this movie. Rasputin feels like he's from a completely different film. His scenes are goofy, cartoony, and fantasy driven, while the scenes with our main characters are reserved, light-hearted, grounded in reality, and animated refinedly. It doesn't help that Rasputin is never mentioned in the present-day timeline, spends most of the film in his lair while his minions do all the work, and never develops a one-to-one personal relationship with Anastasia. This is what happens when you force your movie to replicate something popular. Things feel disconnected and out of place. However, I will admit that Rasputin's minions' attempts to kill Anastasia do liven the film up from time to time. They lead to some fun set pieces full of exciting tension and action. I'm going to give 1 point to the content of this film. While I do think that this movie is mainly made up of contrived ideas that copy Disney's formula, I still really like the characters. Most of them are very likeable and interesting. Anastasia is a fiery and feisty woman. She adapts to dangerous situations well, commits to hard work, and has a sincere heart. You can tell that she truly wants to find out who she is. It's sad that she's being constantly haunted by unclear memories, but it's uplifting seeing things come back to her the more she learns about the Romanov family. Dmitri is a cheeky chap with a smooth, likeable charisma and a bad boy charm. Despite his manipulation and greed, you can tell that there's a sensitive man with a moral compass down below. Vlad is a lovely, charming gentleman, a plump bundle of cheerful joy. He's got seedy intentions, but he's so upbeat, open-hearted and bouncy that it's almost easy to forgive his greed for money. Rasputin may be a forced villain in the film, but I can't deny how ridiculously entertaining he is. He's hilariously goofy and over the top. The film has so much fun playing around with his decaying body too, resulting in some crazy mugging and wacky antics. He's not exactly fretting or intimidating, he's very silly, but he's certainly a riot to watch. Bartok the Bat is Rasputin's cute little minion. I like how he treats Rasputin like a friend as well as a master. He seems to genuinely care about him at times, and he does try to serve as Rasputin's conscience. He's a very endearing character, and I'm not surprised that Bluth later gave him his own spin-off movie. Although I will admit that he does suffer from some slightly annoying verbal diarrhea from time to time. The Dowager Empress is a great screen presence. She's noble, dignified, and self-respecting, but fiercely stubborn at the same time. You can tell that the tragedy of the past continues to haunt her, and that being manipulated by scammers again and again has worn her out. I'm going to give 4 points to the characters in this film. Anastasia relies on both hand-drawn animation and rotoscoped animation, which is a technique where an animator draws over live-action footage. It's a painstaking process that relies on the animator's perception of the live-action footage. Rotoscoping is a unique animation technique that can create a very striking visual style and capture the quirks of live-action acting, but I will admit that it's a flawed method of animation. There are things that animation can achieve that live-action cannot. It's hard for rotoscoping to follow the principles of animation like squashing and stretching because it's tied down to the restraints of the live-action footage. So how does the rotoscoping affect Anastasia's animation? Well, the rotoscoped animation in this film is wonderfully staged. I love how the characters react off each other, shift positions on the set, and interact with things around them. I think it's the live-action templates that help to create this kind of theatrical movement and positioning, which fits the Broadway tone of the film. The animation is also very fluid and realistic. Characters often move with a graceful, authentic flow, and there's something very believable about the character acting. Although, like I said, rotoscoping does have its limitations. While the rotoscoped animation in Anastasia does look credible and convincing, there's still something a little distracting about its uncanny valley level of realism, which did puzzle my visual perception sometimes. Characters can look a little weird from time to time. The animation is also missing a certain edge and magic because it's stuck to the live-action templates. I will admit that I preferred when the animation was hand-drawn. It looks more lively and creative because the animators had more freedom and could make characters follow the principles of animation. They could bounce, squash, stretch and more, resulting in more charismatic and imaginative character acting. I'm going to give 4 points to the animation in this film. Meg Ryan voices Anastasia. She gives her character a very charming voice, but she's also great at capturing Anastasia's sassy side.
I am grateful. Grateful to get away. Go left, she says. Well, I know what's to the left. I'll be Anya the orphan forever.
John Cusack voices Dmitri, and I think that he's the weakest actor in the cast. He's not really playing a cheeky rapscallion con artist, he's just playing John Cusack. The end result is an unconvincing and vanilla performance.
We're going to Paris ourselves. And I've got three, well this one is, but I've got 3 tickets here. Unfortunately the third one is for her, Anastasia.
Kelsey Grammer is wonderfully adorable as Vlad. His sophisticated voice and goofy accent help to create a character full of experience, humor and heart.
She's a tender little morsel.
Vlad.
A cup of hot chocolate after a long walk in the snow.
Vlad, ixnay on the officer.
She's a decadent pastry filled with whipped cream and laughter.
Is this a person or a cream puff?
She is the Empress's ravishing first cousin.
Christopher Lloyd is hilariously over the top as Rasputin. He's clearly having a riot behind the microphone, so his voice is very entertaining to listen to.
Easy, Master. Wow. This is no time to lose your head.
You're right. Ah, I am calm. Ah, I am heartless. I have no feelings whatsoever.
Hank Azaria gives a cute voice to Bartok, full of sincerity and charm.
A party in Paris?
That's right.
Oh, I could teach you the latest dance step. It starts with like a whoop, and then you get really crazy with the hips, sir. It's fun.
We'll let the Grand Duchess Anastasia have her moment.
But who cares?
And then we'll kill her.
Right, and then kill her? Sir, what happened to the party idea?
Angela Lansbury is perfect as the Empress. Her voice is regal and elegant, but she's also fantastic at sounding heartbroken.
My heart can't take it anymore. I will see no more girls claiming to be Anastasia.
I'm going to give 4 points to the voice acting in this film. There's something very magical and enchanting about the music score for this movie. This whimsical style of music really fits the exciting mystery of Anastasia's past. It uses Russian influences and mystical choir chants to paint an atmosphere full of exotic ambiguity. I also love the recurring use of clockwork music to reflect the haunting sound of the gift that the Dowager Empress once gave Anastasia. It's a wonderful way of reflecting the theme of fading memories. Now, this movie does include a lot of musical numbers. I found these songs to be a collection of hits and misses. For the most part, songs seem to be only included for the sake of it. Random scenes are turned into musical numbers, whether it's warranted or not, leading to some mediocre, forgettable tracks that enter the film out of nowhere. The film doesn't really need songs, but again, the movie clearly wants to copy Disney's formula. However, some songs are actually pretty fun and entertaining. Rasputin gets an awesome villain song called In the Dark of the Night. Sure, it has underwhelming visuals, but it sounds amazingly theatrical. It's a demented, deranged, and sinister rock opera-inspired song performed superbly by Jim Cummings. Learn to Do It is a fun and catchy track about Vlad and Dmitri teaching Anastasia to act like a princess. I liked its bouncy rhythm and upbeat tone. Once Upon a December is a touching song about Anastasia's unclear memories attached to the old palace. It's full of warm nostalgia and supported with beautiful, lavish visuals. The rest of the songs didn't really do much for me, and I've forgotten most of them already. They're pretty mediocre. I'm going to give 4 points to the music in this film. To conclude, I have mixed feelings about Anastasia. It wants to tell a serious story about lost souls finding each other, but it's also desperately clinging on to familiar Disney tropes and Hollywood rom-com cliches. The end result is confused, all over the place, and lacks its own identity or direction. It's clearly a product of its own time. However, it's got likeable characters, beautiful colourful visuals, and a few charming qualities. If you want to see a whimsical Disney-esque movie about a princess with high production values, then I recommend it, but don't get your expectations up too high because it's nothing remarkable. Anastasia has gained a total of 17 points, which translates to 3 1/4 Russian strawberries out of 5. If you enjoyed such films as Titan AE or Aladdin, then I think you might like Anastasia. So, what do you think of Anastasia? And what's your favourite movie inspired by real-life history? Let me know in the comments section below. In the next episode of Jambareeqi Reviews, I'm going to review Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Cheerio, folks!